Morning people, welcome back to F Politics. There were several stories this week that were just really bad for equality in the UK, whether it's the stories themselves or just how they were reported in the press. We'll start with the most tragic, Daniel Anjorin, a 14-year-old boy who was murdered on his way to school by a man who was on a violent rampage involving several victims. Now the attack happened on Tuesday, but I want you to compare how the Sun newspaper portrayed his story on their front page compared to how they portrayed previous deaths involving unstable, blade-wielding assailants with multiple victims. Can you see how much space they've given to Daniel Anjorin compared to how much space they've given to people who don't look like Daniel Anjorin? Apparently dating gossip was more important than a 14-year-old black boy being murdered on his way to school. Now we're used to seeing racialized, unequal treatment in the press. We saw it with Meghan Markle, with all the stories about how Kate was great for eating avocados compared to how when Meghan ate avocados, she was implicated in drought and murder. It's such a well-established failure of Western media that Family Guy's even made jokes about it. Because that racial bias applies to the suspects as well. Who do they treat as dangerous, disgraceful threats to British society, and who do they give cute little nicknames to like Mystic Samurai Suspect? Seriously, what the hell is that? The man killed a 14-year-old child. And even though she was right, after political commentator Narinder Kaur predicted this racialized hypocrisy, Lawrence Fox, aka Fascist Pepe Le Pew, posted a lewd photo of her on Twitter. Now that matter is now with the police, but it's insane how people have tried to defend him, saying, oh, but other people were posting that photo online. Yeah, the fact that there are other total fucking creeps online does not excuse Lawrence Fox. Especially when Lawrence Fox has almost 500,000 followers, so of course he did the most damage. And this is the sort of thing that keeps happening to women in the public eye. You would not believe the horror stories that I hear from female fellow activists about the messages they get online. Because I may get death threats every couple of weeks, but nobody's threatening to rape me first. So you can see why women are choosing to be stuck in the woods with a bear rather than a man, right? Like I said, equality in politics not in a great place. Now, the next story is about Boris Johnson, but it really shouldn't be.
It is often useful to give the slight impression that you are deliberately pretending not to know what is going on, because the reality may be that you don't know what is going on, but people won't be able to tell the difference.
He tried to vote this week in the local elections and he got turned away because he didn't have photo ID. But the problem with this story is Boris Johnson is not the real victim here. This story gives the impression, oh, well, I guess the voter ID restrictions must be hitting everybody equally. No, they're not. At the local elections last year, 14,000 people were turned away from being able to vote because they didn't have photo ID. And who's the least likely to have photo ID? People who don't have cars, like financially poorer people or young people. This was a rule deliberately put in to democratically silence the people who already have the least power in society. And they've admitted that to our faces. And I'm not putting my conspiracy hat on and saying that this was intentional, but please do not fall for the idea that this is hitting everybody equally. Now, the final inequality story for this week is Brexit, the new checks on imports from the EU that started on Tuesday. And the government says this is going to add 330 million to food prices. Now, they've also said that that number depends greatly on how well businesses adapt to the new rules. And the thing is, we've heard them say this kind of crap before, where they try and avoid the blame for the damage that their Brexit is doing to our economy.
Some businesses that for other reasons have not been doing well like to blame Brexit, but that's actually an excuse of poor management.
Because some food importers are saying it'll cause them to raise their prices by up to 60%. Now, regardless of the exact number that's going to increase our food prices by, who do you think is going to suffer most from those food price rises? We've already seen from the inflation that we've had over the last few years that it's the lowest end food products that have the worst price rises, not Waitrose. So it's the poorest people in the country that will suffer the most from this. And we've already seen that food poverty in the UK is in a place where 15% of families have gone hungry in the last month. So that's racial equality, gender equality, democratic equality, and financial equality all taking major L's this week. I'm Femi. Make sure you follow F Politics so politics doesn't F you. Have a great week.